one by one, if that's what your objective is. Another claim is that Beryl's death certificate noted that all of the prior life activities took place in St. Anne Parish. This is important. These are the minute details which would seem insignificant, but she notes that not only is it in the parish of St. Anne, because when you look at the parish of St. Anne, it's a decent sized place. These are what would be equivalent to states. You understand? So when you look at the parish of St. Anne, you don't just look at the parish and say, yes, it took place in St. Anne. You also have to look at the district as well, right? So we're going to keep all that stuff in mind as we continue to assert or reassess all of these claims. Now, we're over here to, y'all do know that the way it's shown is still bothering me, but I'm rocking through. I'm not going to look over there no more. Let's continue. So the death certificate. So remember what I said in this last part, that it was noted, not just by me, but by Candace herself, that the activities took place in St. Anne Parish. That's important. So the death certificate that she is asserting is actually Beryl's certificate. Look where the death takes place. So when she asserted that 1960 is when Kamala's actual grandmother died, this 1960 death takes place in Kingston. Wait a minute, Houston. You possibly might have a problem, because the whole story narrative took place in the parish of St. Anne. So how is it now that we find a death certificate taking place in Kingston, which is not in St. Anne, right? And then it's in St. Andrew. It's in the St. Anne, but not St. Anne, St. Andrew, and asserting that this is the Beryl. Okay. So that was red flag number one for me. Like, possibly no, but let's continue. This birth certificate that's also being asserted, we see Beryl Christie. So we see a totally new name pops up here, Beryl Christie, and not the Beryl Magdalene Finnegan that was spoken of. Again, I know for some people be like, there's no way they can be two people of the same name. Listen, they could be 2, 3, 4, 5. The way they were naming people, just you will, when you do this work for real, authentically, you will see that it is a possibility, and it is historically accurate for people to name their children the same things over and over and over again. Okay, let's continue. So those are the two red flags. A, this is taking place in St. Andrew, Kingston, and B, this Beryl is a Beryl Christie. But if we look closely, I know it's a little bit foggy here, but another thing that's going to stick out is what? And we're going to go over it in a minute. Let me just go here. Could this be the Beryl Finnegan? A, we just already saw that this Beryl is Beryl Christie, and it's taking place in St. Andrew. That's red flag number one. Number two, this Beryl is noted to be a spinster. Yet, Candace confirmed her marriage certificate in 1944. So if you look under Christie, you see female spinster. If this Beryl is that Beryl, then she would not have been marked down in 1960 as a spinster, because spinster would indicate she was never married. Now, if the husband died, she would be a widow. If she divorced, she would be a divorcee. I've seen this on the certificates. If she's still married, it would have said married. But this particular Beryl, it says spinster. So that leads us to believe that this Beryl is not that Beryl. Furthermore, so those are 3 red flags. Furthermore, if we look at the age of this particular Beryl, this Beryl was 39 at the time of death, born in 1921. But the Beryl Finnegan that was indicated, that was supposed to be confirmed on the marriage certificate, was born in 1917. That, my dear, is a 4-year difference. And that particular Beryl Magdalene Finnegan, would have been 43 years old. So beyond that, I saw some, who is such and such, who is Douglas Finnegan, but on this particular, who is Mabel Murray? This person is in the wrong parish. This person's last name is wrong. This person's date of birth is wrong. And this person's marriage status is wrong. The only thing that is correct here is that they have the first name Beryl and they were born in St. Anne. So one would have to say, with all of those She seems to want to reject this, but this is just, a friendly conversation of how, even when we go and do our work for ourselves, we have to cross-reference, because if it don't fit, you must acquit. Okay. So that I'm gonna slow down a little bit. Let me know if I'm going too fast. But I'm gonna slow down a little bit just so that we can recap on some of the things that are being inserted and what, based on the research, is not adding up. Number one, hold on for me 1 second. So just to recap, there was a lot of things being asserted. I can't address all of them. I only addressed what I was able to find paperwork for. And so in this particular instance, the paperwork indicates that the death certificate that she is less inclined to accept may actually be the death certificate that she's accepting may be the wrong death certificate, okay? Based on all of the factors that I just mentioned. Let's continue. So I already mentioned those factors. Now, this is an excerpt from Donald J. Harris himself, and he gives some context clues, because when we're doing this work, sometimes the elders are misremembering, or just have a little context clue that you can go on. And, it seems small, but this is what people have to kind of consider, because it would have been their experience. Right? So let's continue. He says that the Miss Iris, which is currently the woman who's in, the woman who's in question, who would be, Iris would be Beryl's mother. She was from Annantown, I-verness. Okay. And then he says ancestry unknown to me, but he could have done an Anansi tale. He could have weaved in an ancestry, but he was transparent enough to let the viewing public know, listen, I don't know too much about this. It's an ancestor unknown. I don't know too much about that. Okay. So let's continue. So he gives us a clue. I highlighted it because it's going to be important as we proceed. This death certificate so the first death certificate is the one that we are being told should be accepted. And this death certificate, although it is in her possession, we're being told we should reject it. But if we look at this particular one, we see that the I-verness that was mentioned by Donald, the father of Kamala, is also mentioned on this death certificate. And the death takes place in Alexandria, St. Anne, I-verness, St. Anne. The same place or location that we're being told that this particular Miss Iris resided. Okay, let's continue. So that's something that connects these two. Unlike the first one, that's not connected because it's in St. Andrew. This one is connected because it's in the same location. Then we see 1995, and we also see the full name of the person, which is Beryl Finnegan, because this is talking about whether or not we can accept the picture that Kamala took with the melanated woman. We are hearing that the melanated woman is actually not the grandmother, and it's the help, and it couldn't be the grandmother because the grandmother passed in 1960. So we just assessed that 1960 birth certificate is suspect for many reasons. Give me 1 second. I'm hearing some background noise. 1 second. All right. So my apologies for that. So we just saw that the one that's being accepted, it's problematic, and that this 1995 death date of Beryl Finnegan would allow for that picture to be valid, right? It would allow for the picture to be valid because she would have still been alive. If you look at the picture, we see the hairstyle of the 90s. We see the earrings of the 90s. I think I have a picture in here. If not, it's online. But we see basically that this is in the right parish, and it allows for her, Beryl Finnegan, to be alive. Let me get some water here. And we also see Douglas Finnegan was present at death. Okay. So this one needs to come back into circulation because it actually has more validity than this one. Okay, based on who we're talking about and the location. So that's the second thing I wanted to address. Now, I put in the distance from Kingston to I-verness to show where one death took place and where the other one took place. Now, the red dot indicates where Donald Harris said his family resided. That portion of his maternal grandmother resided. And the little dot line all the way to Kingston at the bottom here indicates where the second birth certificate would have taken, death certificate would have taken place. So this is quite a distance, especially at that time. It would have taken, it is actually 101 kilometers or 63 miles, all right? So it's not like next door. You get me? Nobody's Ubering from I-verness to Kingston. It's not next door. So that's just something to be considered, because sometimes we don't know, sorry, where these places are. So now the question is, based on some of the stuff, who is the real Iris? Because